May 5, 1945, Hacksaw Ridge, Okinawa. The sun rises on a battlefield soaked in blood. 75 wounded American soldiers lie scattered across the top of a 400-foot cliff, too wounded to move, too exposed to survive. The order has been given. Retreat. Everyone off the ridge. Every soldier climbs down the cargo nets to safety. Every soldier except one. Private First Class Desmond Doss refuses to leave. He has no rifle, no grenades, no weapon of any kind, just his medical bag, his Bible, and his faith. For the next 12 hours under constant enemy fire, Desmond Doss will drag wounded soldiers to the edge of the cliff. One by one, he will lower them down on a rope sling to safety below. After each rescue, he will pray, "Dear God, let me get just one more." By nightfall, he will have saved 75 men. Men who once threw shoes at him while he prayed. Men who called him a coward. Men who threatened to shoot him themselves if he ever went into combat. This is the story of Desmond Doss, the only conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor in World War II. A man who refused to kill, but saved more lives than most soldiers who carried guns. Desmond Thomas Doss was born on February 7, 1919, in Lynchburg, Virginia. He grew up in a deeply religious Seventh-day Adventist family. The 10 Commandments weren't just words to Desmond. They were absolute truth. Thou shalt not kill. No exceptions, no compromises. Desmond's father was a World War I veteran. The war had damaged him, haunted him. One day when Desmond was a child, his father got into a violent argument with his brother. His father pulled a gun. Desmond's mother grabbed it and gave it to young Desmond. "Hide this," she said, "before your father kills someone." That moment stayed with Desmond forever. The 10 Commandments also said, honor the Sabbath day. For Seventh-day Adventists, the Sabbath is Saturday. No work, no fighting. A day devoted entirely to God. These beliefs would define Desmond's life and nearly destroy his military career before it began. When Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7, 1941, Desmond was working at the Newport News Naval Shipyard. As a defense industry worker, he could have claimed a deferment. He didn't need to serve. But Desmond believed the war against fascism was just. He wanted to serve his country. He wanted to save lives. So in April 1942, he enlisted in the United States Army. He would become a combat medic. He would go to war. But he would never carry a weapon. From day one, Desmond Doss was a problem for the Army. At boot camp, he refused to train with weapons. He refused to work or drill on Saturdays. He asked for passes to attend church every Sabbath. The other recruits despised him. They called him a coward, a weakling, a Bible thumper. They threw boots at him while he prayed by his bunk. They beat him up, threatened him. Some soldiers openly said they would shoot Desmond in the back if he ever went into combat. His commanding officers tried everything to get rid of him. They offered him a Section 8 discharge. Mental instability. Desmond refused. He wasn't crazy. He just believed in God. They tried to transfer him out, to assign him elsewhere. Desmond fought to stay. He wanted to be a medic. He wanted to serve. Finally, against all odds, Desmond Doss was allowed to remain with his unit, the 307th Infantry Regiment, 77th Infantry Division. He would deploy as a combat medic, without a weapon. In 1944, Desmond and the 307th were sent to the Pacific, first to Guam. The fighting was brutal, but Desmond proved himself immediately. While other soldiers took cover, Desmond crawled into enemy fire to treat the wounded. At night, when it was most dangerous, Desmond went out alone, crawling through the darkness, searching for wounded men, dragging them back to safety. His fellow soldiers warned him, "You'll be shot by our own men. They'll mistake you for the enemy." Desmond didn't care. Those boys needed help. For his actions on Guam, he received his first Bronze Star. Then the 307th was sent to Leyte in the Philippines. Again, Desmond ran into fire to save the wounded. Again, he risked his life without hesitation. Second Bronze Star. By now, the men who had once threatened to kill him had changed their minds. They knew Desmond would come for them, no matter what. They knew he would risk his life to save theirs. They trusted him, but the ultimate test was still ahead. Okinawa. In late April 1945, The 307th was ordered to take a position known as the Maida Escarpment. The Americans called it Hacksaw Ridge, a 400-foot cliff with a 35-foot overhang at the top. The Japanese had spent years fortifying it, tunnels, machine gun nests, artillery positions. It was a death trap. A few days earlier, a company had tried to take the ridge. They were nearly wiped out. On May 2, 1945, it was B Company's turn. Desmond Doss and the few survivors from A Company climbed cargo nets to the top. What they found was hell. The Japanese had perfect fields of fire, machine guns, mortars, artillery. Men were cut down as soon as they reached the top. Desmond had removed all markings that identified him as a medic. The Japanese had learned to target medics first. Take out the medic, and more soldiers die from their wounds. So Desmond worked without protection, crawling through fire, treating the wounded, dragging them to safety. For 3 days, the battle raged. Japanese fire was so intense that one American soldier was decapitated by a machine gun burst. Desmond treated men under constant fire, never taking cover, never retreating, just moving from one wounded soldier to the next. Then came May 5th, a Saturday, Desmond's Sabbath. But Desmond was the only medic left. He knew the final assault was planned for that day. He asked his commanding officer for one thing: time to pray, time to read his Bible. The officer agreed. The assault was delayed while Desmond Doss prayed. Then the attack began. The Japanese unleashed everything they had: artillery, mortars, machine guns. The Americans were decimated. Dozens of men fell wounded. The survivors retreated down the cliff, except Desmond. 75 wounded men lay scattered across the ridge, unable to move, exposed to enemy fire. The order came: everyone off the ridge. Desmond Doss refused. For the next 12 hours, he worked alone. He crawled to wounded men, treated their injuries, dragged them to the edge of the cliff. One by one, he lowered them down on a rope sling, 200 feet down, to safety. After each man reached the bottom, Desmond would pray, "Dear God, let me get just one more." Then back into the fire, again and again. 12 hours, 75 men, alone, under constant fire, without a weapon. By nightfall, every wounded man had been rescued. Desmond Doss had saved them all. Miraculously, Desmond was uninjured, but his ordeal wasn't over. On May 21st, during a night raid, Desmond was with 2 riflemen in a shell hole. A Japanese grenade landed at his feet. He tried to kick it away. The explosion tore through his legs. Shrapnel embedded in his body. 17 pieces of metal. Desmond treated his own wounds as best he could. Then he waited. For 5 hours, he waited for stretcher bearers, rather than call another medic into danger. Finally, they came for him. As he was being carried to safety, a Japanese tank attacked. The stretcher bearers dropped the litter and took cover. Desmond saw another soldier nearby, more critically wounded. He rolled off his stretcher. "Take him first," Desmond said. While waiting for the stretcher bearers to return, Desmond was hit again. A sniper's bullet shattered his left arm. Using a rifle stock as a splint, Desmond crawled 300 yards to the aid station. Desmond's war was over, but his fight had just begun. On October 12, 1945, President Harry Truman placed the Medal of Honor around Desmond Doss's neck, the first conscientious objector to receive America's highest military honor. Truman held Desmond's hand the entire time the citation was read. "I'm proud of you," Truman said. "You really deserve this. I consider this a greater honor than being president." But the price Desmond paid was enormous. The cold, wet nights in foxholes on Pacific Islands had given him tuberculosis. In 1946, he was diagnosed. For the next 5.5 years, he was in and out of hospitals. They removed his left lung, 5 ribs. He would live the rest of his life on one lung. In 1976, an overdose of antibiotics left him completely deaf. In 1988, he received a cochlear implant and regained his hearing. Despite everything, Desmond never complained. He raised a family on a small farm in Georgia. His son followed in his footsteps, becoming an Army medic. Desmond always said being a medic was the most rewarding work there is. The men Desmond saved never forgot him. Captain Jack Glover, who once wanted Desmond out of the unit, said, He was one of the bravest persons alive, and then to have him end up saving my life was the irony of the whole thing. Desmond Doss died on March 23, 2006, at the age of 87. His story was immortalized in the 2016 film Hacksaw Ridge, directed by Mel Gibson. At the Venice Film Festival, it received a 10-minute standing ovation. Desmond's story teaches us something profound. That courage doesn't require a weapon. That faith can be stronger than fear. That one person armed only with conviction can make a difference. Desmond refused to kill, but he saved more lives than most men who carried guns. He faced mockery, threats, and violence for his beliefs, but he never wavered. And when the moment came, he proved what real courage looks like. 75 men, 12 hours, no weapon, just faith. And the prayer, "Dear God, let me get just one more." If this story moved you, please share it. Desmond Doss showed us that heroism comes in many forms, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to compromise your principles, even when the whole world tells you you're wrong. Thank you for watching.